Tom Ross is a community strategist and mentor. He also is the founder of Learn.community. Tom is a community strategist and founder with over a decade of experience building purpose-driven, high-growth communities. I would say also helping a ton of creators make things happen. Today, Tom supports 200 community builders at Learn Community, where he shares hard-earned insights and mentor others in building communities that are impactful and also sustainable. Today, the topic that he has prepared for us is building a thriving membership community in 2025. So now it's my time to stop sharing. And Tom, if you want to start getting ready, you are most welcome. The stage is all yours, my friend. Go for it.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. Okay, can everyone see this? Let me know. Yes, amazing. Okay, well, first of all, it's so great to be here. I am honored to be included in this incredible event, and I'm going to try and just pack a ton of value into the next hour. We're going to have some Q&A. I'm going to be basically sharing my entire framework with you guys that I normally reserve for my bigger one-on-one clients and my members. And I just want to give it all away today. I want to give as much value as possible. So I would encourage you, please show up in the chat, say hi. I really like to make my sessions interactive, and I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the chat throughout. So drop a little comment if you can now. And let's get into it. Okay, so great intro from Francisco. But again, bit of background, I've been building communities actually for 20 years, believe it or not. And these communities have served millions. Now I have the honor of supporting some of the biggest creators in the world to plan, launch, and grow their membership communities. And I'm supporting 200 community builders inside Learn.community. And it's a lot of fun. I'm basically very deep in the community world. And what I'm seeing is the game has changed. So if you are a creator, if you're someone who puts out content right now or makes a living, from building an audience around your expertise, you might be seeing this right now. Course sales for most of us are down. Ebook sales, like all the traditional ways that creators and educators used to make money online, they're getting harder. And I think a big part of this is AI. AI means that information is going to zero. And so, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, by the way, bear with me today, guys. But yeah, if you are teaching, information is going to zero. And so these kind of passive delivery mechanisms of information are unfortunately sliding backwards year on year for so many creators in my network. And hey, Esther, Serena, Benia, Akash, what's up, everyone? Let me know if perhaps you've seen this this trend in your business. If you sell courses or anything like that, it's very, very widespread. So, what is the answer? Well, community seems to be a model that so many creators are starting to turn to because they recognize community is the future, and where course sales, etc., are waning. They recognize community as a really powerful vehicle to bring people together. But what they soon find out is community is really hard because compared to just passively selling a course and the delivery of that material takes care of itself, community is a completely different beast. It's people, after all, and people are complex and they're nuanced. And soon enough, most creators who are running a community for the first time, they make a bunch of mistakes. And 95% of communities I see are just failing out there. And that isn't because community is broken. It's because people are not really doing it right. But even though community is hard, I think when it works, it is incredible. First of all, I believe it's one of the most defensible business models in an AI age because humans are craving connection, interaction more than ever. It can be really, really lucrative. And I'm going to show examples of that today from both myself and my clients, how we're building real businesses around the membership community model. And most importantly, it's valuable because why are we building communities if not to help and deeply serve our people? So I think it lets you scale your impact in some incredible, incredible ways. Now, I have just returned from the Creator Leaders Retreat here in the UK. And this was like 70 plus of the biggest content creators in the UK. These were some incredibly inspiring people, and it was an amazing few days away. A lot of these people, they have millions of followers, diehard fans, and they're just doing an amazing job at capturing attention and building audience around their chosen subject. So a really, really inspiring bunch. But what I noticed with so many of them was they're fantastic at building audience, but then they kind of default to just brand sponsorships as their main monetization model. And so their whole business is basically hanging off a handful of sponsors. And yeah, they can earn well from some of these sponsorships. But, if the sponsorships dry up or like a sponsor pulls out or whatever, they're in a pretty difficult spot. And so what I noticed was, even though these people are amazing at building audience, what they are missing out on is they don't really have a good business model sat underneath that. And this is a real problem. And so that's why I'm so passionate to try and help and enable a lot of creators to actually build a real business underneath the audience that they're capturing. And I think community is the best way of doing that. So this is my very messy doctor style handwriting. Let me know in the chat, can you read that? Is that legible to you? I'm going to go through it piece by piece though. So this is my very, very simple kind of flywheel business model for how I think you can consider a community model for your business. And this is the exact model that has let me build multiple six figures of profit myself through a community business. And it's the exact model that I use with many of my clients as well. So top of funnel, very simply, is just where are you capturing attention? Where are you building audience? From there, it's trying to get some of your biggest fans and supporters and offering them a really cool, really valuable paid membership community. And I generally advise that this should be mid-ticket. You can see a couple of dollar signs here. I don't think you should be super, underpriced or cheap. And I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. But if you've got this kind of mid-ticket membership community, and I would class mid-ticket as anywhere from like, $50 to a few $100s per month, preferably charged annual or quarterly. So maybe it's like $500 a year or, $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year or something like that. From there, you will invariably get 5 to 10% of your community members who want more from you and are willing to pay for it. And this is where you can introduce a high ticket offering. And this could be something like coaching or consulting. It could be retreats or masterminds or getaways or something like that. But the point is, if you have 100 paying members, you are leaving opportunity on the table to assume that all of them have got everything they need from you and all of them have like exhausted, any spending power that they might have. There will be a minority that actively want to invest more and want more value. Maybe they want more access to you or whatever it might be. And so by having this kind of three-part thing, you've got your top of funnel, you've got your paid membership community, and then you're stacking on a high ticket offering. You start to actually build out a proper product stack and a really, really strong, sustainable business. And then it starts to feed itself, because what will generally happen is your high ticket offering will start to get referrals. So I see this myself, people join my community and some of them reach out and say, can I work with you one-on-one? I don't even sell it. They just ask. And then people start working with me one-on-one. They get good results. They tell their friends and I start to get referrals. So that becomes a little flywheel and it feeds itself. And the same thing happens with, I've got clients who run retreats. People start talking about these amazing retreats. Maybe some non-members can attend the retreat. And from doing that, they then join the community, but it starts to feed itself. And then both of these things, both your mid-ticket membership community and your high-ticket offering, you can start to create content from that, because there's really cool stuff happening all the time. Like a lot of stuff I teach actually comes from the interactions with my clients and the lessons that we're working through. And likewise, there's so much amazing stuff happening inside my community that I often just pull examples from that and turn it into content. So all the content that you're pulling from your paid offering starts to actually become your top of funnel. And that top of funnel brings more members, brings more high ticket, creates more content, and it goes round and round and round. It is a very, very simple model. But as I say, even some of the biggest creators in the world are not thinking about stuff like this. They are still relying on sponsorships and brand partnerships, and they're still leaving themselves exposed. So You don't need to overcomplicate things. I think trying to adopt a model like this is one of the quickest ways that you can actually build a meaningful business around your audience. And as I say, this is exactly how I'm structuring things right now. And I don't think you even need a gigantic top of funnel. So the biggest driver of members to my community has become my YouTube channel. I only launched this 4 months ago, like 3-4 months ago. I've got 4 videos and 850 subscribers or something like that. So this is not a huge audience, but yesterday alone, my YouTube channel drove 2 paying members to my membership community. And it does that on a regular basis. So I think if you build the right audience and you do it in the right way, it can become a really effective funnel for your membership community. And then, like I say, roughly 5 to 10% of my 200 members then will reach out and engage with me and ask about one-on-one coaching. So this is what most creators do when they actually start thinking about community. They pick a group of people. So normally their wider audience. It's like, I'm going to build a community for investors or gardeners or aspiring actors or whatever it might be. They then just pick a bunch of generic features because they don't really think about their community features strategically. Instead, they kind of just say, well, I guess we'll have a chat space and an event space and maybe throw some resources in there. And they kind of leave it at that. And then they invest all this time building the community. They put it out to their audience and kind of cross their fingers and hope. And sometimes it goes okay. And sometimes it flops and it's crickets. And, they wasted a bunch of effort and the community never took off. And again, I see this all the time and it's so avoidable. I'm going to teach you how to avoid this today. And I know there's a little 20-second delay, by the way, but let me know in the comments. I'm reading some of your comments coming in. I'm glad you could read my scroll, Esther. Let me know, are you following along so far? Is this resonating? Are you seeing any familiarity with your business? And are you looking at this model and thinking, yeah, that might work for me? So this is my community compass framework. And as I said at the start, I'm actually going to give away all of the nuance of this framework today for free, even though this is historically what I kind of hold back for my clients. So it's broken into 4 sections. We have define, design, launch, and scale. And the reason why I created this is because there is so much to think about when you're building and growing a community. It can often be like, where do I start? What order should I do things in? It can be very, very overwhelming. But the point of this framework is you can take it systematically. You can go through a process and you can take it step by step. And I'm going to take you through that today. So this is a more detailed version of this framework, and I'm going to link to it at the end. But I'll drop a little link in the chat now if you are interested in getting a giant PDF of this framework that you can go through in your own time. There it is, everyone. Okay, so let's break this down. I would always start with your community's promise. And really, this section covers your ICP, which is your ideal customer profile. So who is the community for? And when you're doing this, I would focus on something like this. So it's available distribution. Who can you actually reach? Do you have an audience? You're already reaching these people. Do you have networks you can tap into? You don't want to build an audience that you can't actually get in front of. I think it should be suitably focused as well. So, you don't want to go uber broad, like, humans trying to improve their life or something like that. It's going to be really hard to target those people. And some of the best communities that I see and the most successful ones, they target incredibly specific people. And it works very, very well because these people have a lot in common. And finally, the value of the collective. You need to really think, what is the value that members are going to create amongst themselves? And to give an example, I'm in a few entrepreneurial communities, and these are generally vetted communities for people who are a bit further along in their journey. And as a result, there's quite a high bar for membership, and the value shared is very, very high. You can trust what people are saying. It's people that have had very long and successful careers there. And so if you ask a question, you're going to get a really, really good response. There is a high value for that collective group. But if it was a whole mismatch and people who were just getting started and people who were, 30 years in and whatnot, the value of the collective wouldn't be as strong. and people wouldn't have as much in common. So it's about being intentional about picking the right people at the right stage. So that's your ICP, your ideal customer. And I would always start by researching what they actually need, because people skip this phase so much. They assume they know what people want. And their idea of validation, which is basically the concept of proving demand before you ever go build the thing, is they would just send a survey out and say, hey, do you guys want a community? And this gives you really bad data, because normally people are just nice and they say, yeah, sure, we want a community, even if that's not true. So instead, what I tend to do is I will do a more broad diagnostic style of research where you don't talk about the community at all. You don't talk about what you're building. You just try and figure out, what are your people up to? What are their challenges? What are their goals? Where are they at? What are they working through right now? What are they focused on? What's important to them? You need to figure out that kind of stuff, because that is going to feed your community concept. That is going to point you in the right direction when you really understand your people. And once you do this, you will start to uncover patterns in what people want most. And this can start to basically inform the promised outcome of your community. So I'll give you a quick example here, but this is one of my clients, Alex and Livy. They run a wonderful community called Mic Drop. And this basically helps people who are building thought leadership around their ideas to amplify them by becoming sought after speakers. So this is people who want to leverage public speaking to kind of build their profile, build their career, and scale their ideas. And it's a really cool, really successful community. But they were only able to kind of speak very directly to their ideal customers with this headline here, because they've listened to them. They've understood what matters most, the kind of language they use, etc. And I touched on sub-promises. I think once you have your main promise, then you can effectively break that down into sub-promises. And sub-promises are, what sub-outcomes can you fulfill that are going to basically guarantee fulfilling this main outcome when they're all combined? So let me explain that. If the main outcome is becoming a sought-after speaker, in Mic Drop, they have a few sub-outcomes to achieve that. So outcome number one is, you are going to get clear on your message. Okay, that's super, super important. We're going to help you clarify your message. Outcome number two is, we're going to help position you better so that you're actually going to attract more inbound interest in terms of what you're doing as a speaker. More people are going to approach you. Outcome number three is, we're going to teach you to increase your rates and charge appropriately. And outcome number four is, we're going to help you build momentum in your speaking career and really, really take it to the next level. So if you achieve all four of those sub outcomes, then you are going to become a sought after speaker. They kind of stack towards that overall goal. Again, let me know in the comments, everyone. Don't be shy. Does that make sense, hopefully? So we're defining our ideal customer. We're validating where they're at and what they want. We're coming up with the overall promised outcome. And then we're breaking that down into sub-promises and sub-outcomes. Okay. Next up, we have your chosen model. And there are different, ways of running communities. It could be a perpetual community, so it's kind of always running. It could be a limited time cohort or experience like that. It could be that it is always open, as in people can sign up anytime, or it could be closed in terms of it only opens a few times a year or something like that. It could be qualified, so you can only get in if you fill out an application and you're the right fit. Or unqualified, you can pretty much sign up anytime. And when you're doing all of this, you need to think about your constraints and your resource. Is it just you? Have you got a team? How much time do you actually want to spend on this community? What is a realistic working week going to be for you? Where does this fit within your wider business? So it's being mindful of these types of things. And I'll give you a real example. So with my community, learn.community, my current approach is, this is a perpetual community. So it's always open. Like, you can check it out now. It's learn.community, always open. People can join anytime, and it's currently unqualified. So I don't actively vet who joins. Like, anyone can technically join. I mean, obviously the right people join because of my positioning and price point and so on. But I don't know exactly who's going to join. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I've changed it. In the early days, I had a waitlist. I was vetting every single member, and I was only opening every few months in a kind of cohort approach. And I changed that a few years ago when I had a daughter, because it turns out having a newborn and being a dad is really, pretty exhausting. And so by doing that, I basically changed to a model that works for me. It's like really, really easy to run through that, and people can join anytime. I don't have to vet people. I don't have to do applications. I don't have to do launches. It happens a lot more passively. So offer. In terms of your offer, you then need to start thinking, okay, we've defined the promised outcome that people want. We need to now start building features underneath this. And this is where you can avoid the trap of really generic features. So for example, I'm working with a client right now, and we figured out that what her people really, really want is they want to find their own original art style. They don't want to just follow tutorials. They want to be able to show up and really develop as an artist and get their own unique style. That was like the main thing they wanted. And so rather than throw a bunch of generic features at people, we could do things like start developing unique tools and even AI tools that actually guide members and help them discover their own style and lean into that, and give them custom prompts of art to explore to develop that style further. And we could pack all of this into the community offering and provide support alongside that. So we ended up with a really unique set of features specifically guided towards helping people achieve the outcome they want. Thank you, Serena and Esther. Appreciate you guys. Then you need to start thinking about the business side of things. I know this can be a little bit dry, but I promise it is so important to try and think about this early on, because so many people, they join my community and I'm like, where do you want to get to? And they're like, well, I want 1,000 paying members in a year's time and I'm going to become a billionaire. And often it's not that easy and it's not that realistic. And so I think sit down and take the time to do some projections. I have, various calculators and tools within my community for this, but you can find others online. And it's about kind of plotting the numbers. How many members do you think you're going to be able to drive? Over what time period? What are you actually going to charge? And you can tweak these different numbers and tweak the churn rate projections and so on. And you can see where you end up. And this is really important because what most people do is they underprice. So they're like, I'm going to charge $10 a month or something. And they don't realize how much work community is to actually do properly. And they pretty soon find out that's just unsustainable. They can't actually show up for their members at that price point. They don't know their numbers at all. So they just jump headfirst into running a community and they have no idea where it's going financially. They often forget about churn, which, as anyone who runs the subscription model or membership model will tell you, can be a real killer. If you don't get your churn right, it's going to be pretty much impossible to grow. And as I say, they have really unrealistic acquisition goals. So they're kind of expect to drive hundreds or thousands of members and they don't even have an audience. They don't really have the top of funnel in place. And so a lot of the work I do is I actually help people get realistic in understanding where they're going and how to think about these things. And then finally, this is a really cool exercise that I do with people, but I actually validate a prototype of the community. Because remember, at this point, we haven't launched anything. We're just in the planning phase and we're just in the validation phase. We're trying to prove that people want this thing. And so I help people essentially design like a very basic prototype, normally a sales page or something like that. They're not even building the community at this point. And we get it in front of prospective members and we see what they think. And pretty quickly, you will understand what people like, what they don't like, what's confusing, and if they're actually interested in this thing. It's like a very quick, effective way of doing that. Okay, so now we go to the design phase. We've been in define for those first 3 sections. We're now in design. We're building our community. And there is so much I could talk about here, but these are some of the key points. You want it to be minimal and simple. The biggest mistake I see is people make it very overwhelming and very complex, which always confuses members and does not help you. We want it to be intuitive. And so, people should just naturally know how to browse it and how to navigate it. Like, yes, onboarding is important. And yes, we want to teach people that stuff. But we have to assume not everyone's going to complete all the onboarding. Some people just want to jump right in. And so it's really important that your community is intuitive. I think about hierarchy as well in your community structure. too many people just kind of treat all the sections equally. And it's like, actually, there's going to be some sections or spaces that you really want people to start with or focus on, and then others that are kind of more supportive to that. And through all of this, we're trying to think, okay, how do we structure our community to orientate members towards success? So to give you one example, like in my community, and this is a very common model, like a lot of us, we have so much information to share. Like I'm working with a client right now, I think they have 500 hours worth of training material. So it's very easy to fall into the category of overwhelm. So what I generally advise is you can set up more concise, quick, easy learning paths that are like your core curriculum. And then, like I've done here with my learning base, underneath that, like secondary to that, you can have a wider archive of content. And so it's like, you know, if you want to learn the core stuff, go through this manageable learning path. If you want wider, further learning than that, then jump into the archive, the knowledge base, the learning base, whatever you call it. And that's where you can have a much greater volume of content. You can organize it really well. You can have categories and topics. You might have some AI support of how to navigate that. But I think that's a nice pairing for how to think about structure. Okay, next up, experience. My friend David Spinks talks about this a lot in his framework for onboarding. He talks about when members join your community, they need to know what to do. They need to know the information that they should know, and they need to know how to feel. So do, know, feel. And I love, when it comes to experience, really focusing on that third one. How do you want members to feel? Because I think when you define that, you can actually do an incredible job architecting that experience. So do you want members to feel, you know, fired up and motivated when they join your community? Do you want them to feel serene and calm and supported? Do you want them to feel like they just, you know, they made it home and they're around friends and, you know, it's warm and cozy, whatever it might be? I think you can actually really audit your brand touch points and do this with great intention. And when you do it right, it's a wonderful thing to kind of see the feelings you want members to have being felt by them, you know, right from when they first join. Culture as well. I think culture is so underrated in community. I think the strongest communities, they have a really close-knit, well-defined culture. Everyone has these shared values and understanding of how to behave. Onboarding and activation, hugely important. Hopefully that goes without saying in this room, but I think if you are trying to engage members, you're trying to retain them and keep them around, so much of that work happens right at the start. It's that kind of like, you know, day one, hour one experience. And so what I generally teach is this kind of loss leader approach, where I say disproportionately stack value in your time and effort and resource into that initial experience, because that's going to be what kind of brings them into the community properly. Even if you couldn't be that hands-on and high touch throughout an entire year of membership, front load your effort and experience to try and activate them in the best possible way. And then, of course, throughout the course of their membership in your community, you're going to have events, you're going to have rituals, you're going to have this kind of regular cadence of things happening to try and keep them engaged and give them that great experience. And, you know, I'm so bullish on values. I actually have a whole space in my community pinned just talking about the values, and people comment on it and have that as an example. And as a result, you know, these values are exhibited by all our members. It's like a very kind place, very supportive. People open up, feel safe to share. And I love that so much. Okay, brand. Again, let me know in the comments. I know I'm covering a lot here, but I really wanted to impart as much as I could. And yeah, I'm reading your comments. I'm super, super glad it's helpful so far. Okay, brand. We like being in pretty communities. And I think as a creative at heart, I love having fun with this. So being intentional about your community design, the imagery, the nice touches during events and so on, having some consistency and cohesion between all of these touch points, I think does create an overall more professional experience. And something I love doing is I actually do an audit of all of the touch points and then try and ensure that your brand is really strong on those, because we often forget the micro touch points in the member journey. But what I encourage you to do is do a diagram, a little flow chart or something, with every single step that a member goes through, from like first discovering your community, seeing the sales page, signing up, paying, getting onboarded, exploring the community, going to an event, like all the way through. There's going to be dozens and dozens of different touch points. And by doing that, you can look closely at each one and make sure it's aligned with your brand, it's aligned with the experience that you want to create, and be very intentional about that. Sales page, I could do an entire workshop, and indeed I have done, on how to craft a great sales page. But I guess my biggest tip, outside of being clear who this thing is for and what the promised outcomes are, is to really try and leverage social proof. I think the biggest sales mechanism that you can rely on is great reviews, case studies, and testimonials from your members. And so I'm very bullish about capturing these on a regular basis. I use a tool called Senja, but there are many tools out there, and it just helps me stay on top of that. It's like anytime a member has a great experience, I'll kind of hit them up and be like, hey, do you mind leaving a review? And so I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of positive reviews that I think are the main thing that kind of sells my community on the sales page. Okay, so at this point, we have planned our community, we validated it, we built it, we've made it intuitive, we made it look nice, we've crafted a great experience. Now it is time to start bringing members in. And the biggest thing that I would advise here is I would consider starting with a beta launch. And the reason for this is I think it can be really daunting to think about bringing in a ton of people, like hundreds of members or something, on day one. And at this point, you're still going to be a little unrefined. You still haven't actually collided your concept with members. And so this is yet another stage of validation. It's kind of proving, can you get some early super fans or evangelists into your community? And there's a few benefits of getting 5 to 25 typically members into your community. So at this point, as I say, you want to attract your true fans. You want to attract your evangelists. And by getting these people in, they are going to be your best people, your biggest supporters. They're going to hopefully be really engaged and awesome. And you can use those people to start to build the early culture, the early engagement. So when more members join in the future, you've got a really strong foundation that's been built there. I think by colliding your community with these early people, you're going to be able to test your offering. So you will see what they value, what they like, what's falling down, etc. And most importantly, you can show up and overserve these people because it's a small group. You can be very hands-on. You can really go above and beyond to support them. And you can start to build some really impressive early success stories and get some great reviews from these early people, which you can then leverage when you go to your kind of broader launch that follows the beta. And finally, it can build some momentum because, we're working hard at this point. We're building a meaningful community. And so I think it's wonderful if you can actually have some activity going on. You can start to bring in some early revenue from these beta members and just get this momentum into your community business. So next up after this, I would advise thinking about your pre-launch. So at this point, you've got some early members in, you're generating some revenue, and most importantly, you are overserving those people and doing a great job for them. Now, with your pre-launch, I would tend to always advise to build a waitlist because, again, what you don't want to do is you don't want to just launch and have crickets. You don't want to launch and have no idea how many people are interested or how many people are going to join. So I would encourage you to build a waitlist. It's free to do this. We can use Google Forms or Typeform or whatever. And people are going to put their name down and say, yep, I'm interested in joining. And at this point, you have a great looking sales page. You're leveraging the success stories and reviews from your beta launch. And people are saying, I want this. It looks great. Clearly, it's working for the members inside. So they express interest and they put their name and email down. And then it's your job to really hype them up and build that anticipation ahead of your big launch. And this is where you are going more in depth. You're sharing some of the successes members are already seeing there. You're talking about the value inside the community and how it's helping people. You're talking about what's lined up and all the exciting things that you've got planned. And you're getting people really, really excited to actually be part of this thing. So then when you launch, it is about leveraging some urgency, leveraging some scarcity, those tried and true marketing strategies. And you can do this in a few ways. So you've got this interested waitlist, hopefully a good number of people who are lined up. Now, one effective way of launching is you can actually have a member cap. So instead of just like, hey, you can go sign up, like check it out, you could say, we've got X number of people on the wait list, but we're only able to open with this many slots. So, when I launched my community, I had 400 people on a wait list and I opened with 100 founding members slots. And as a result, this is going to drive demand because people are going to really kind of rush to try and get a spot because they don't want to miss out. And this is something I've done many, many times with my clients. It's a huge lever in terms of driving demand and ultimately driving growth. You could also just have a limited launch window. So you say, we're opening, but only for the next 5 days. And after that, we're going to close again for a little while. And again, that creates some urgency. People are going to hopefully rush to join. And at this point, this is not your kind of soft beta launch where you're just rolling it out quietly to a few super fans. This is where you really want to shout it from the rooftops. So it's having proper, well thought out campaigns. You're following up with people. This is an underrated tip, but many of the best creators I know do this. If people are expressing interest, so they're clicking on your emails, they're engaging with your social posts, they're on the wait list, but they haven't yet bought, reach out to them personally, offer to jump on a call, send them a personalized Loom video or something like that, send them a personal email and get into a conversation and, try and understand if it would be a great fit for them. And I'll give you a real example here. So Joyce Sullivan, incredible person, best-selling poet, and a long-time client of mine. And we pivoted her launch approach to kind of match what I just described. So we had a limited number of slots. And she did a huge launch pretty recently and sold out an entire cohort. And her community cost nearly $2,000, by the way. But she sold out a lot of spots in 12 minutes, which was incredible. And before, she was very much getting a bit of a slow trickle of interest in the community. She sold out in 12 minutes. And it took her community business to new heights. She's now got 250 members. And it's an incredible business that she's building. Okay, so at this point, we have launched. We're now running the community and trying to scale it. And we can think about engagement. It is this big, big topic, right? Everyone always wants to know about engagement. And again, there is so much that I could teach when it comes to this subject. But if we look at some of the high level things that I found most effective, the first thing is actually leveraging data. And I talk about this a lot, but I think if you gather a healthy amount of data at the point of sign up, and hopefully it's attached to members' profiles in some way, I think this can be your greatest tool when it comes to retention and engagement. And the reason for this is if you don't have any data on people, it's basically just this black box. It's totally ambiguous. It's like, who is this person? Where are they at? Why are they joining this community? What do they need? And all you can really do is give them quite a generic, onboarding sequence or something like that. So instead, what I like to do is I gather a rich amount of data. And to give you an example, someone joined my community yesterday, and I could see they had specific goals for their community that I could immediately start supporting them with. I could share suitable resources, and I could start working with them on that strategy. I could see they were based in the UK. And so I'm like, cool, I'm doing a London meetup in November. Then I'm joining that group DM group and meeting the other UK-based members. And so there were all these ways that I could kind of, connect them with others, support them on their journey, understand who they are and where they're at. And that's all from the data gathered at the point of profile. And so it's a huge tool in terms of helping to engage and connect members. Then I would encourage, Venia says, data at sign up is the lowest hanging fruit for your community, and it's primarily qualitative first. Many people don't realize how simple "where do you come from" question actually is. Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions actually, Venia. So I have a question of where did you find the community, and it basically just proves what's working with my top of funnel. That's how I know that 2/3 of our members now come from my YouTube, which I never would have guessed because it's such an early stage. But I'm like, wow, that marketing channel is really working. I need to double down on that and put more effort in. And that's just from the data. So yeah, to facilitate sharing. This is something I actively encourage, especially at the start of your community. I think what most people do is they sit back and they passively wait for members to engage. And it's kind of a bit of a ghost town oftentimes. So don't sit back and wait. You should proactively go to members. So I'm going to pick out Venia because she's been awesome in the chat. But let's say Venia just joined my community. I might DM her and say, hey, Venia, like, how's it going with your community? Like, you know, I'd love to hear a little more about where you're at, any current challenges or anything like that. And Venia might say, oh, yeah, it's going okay, but actually this is like a real pain point right now. Can you help? And I would say, yes, I absolutely can help. But would you mind sharing that in the main community? And that way, I guarantee I will jump in and help you. But I think there's going to be some other members that can share their perspectives and they can help too. And then overall, that's going to make for a really great conversation for everyone in the community to enjoy. Is that okay? And 99% of the time, Venia or whatever member you're helping will say, yeah, sure, that's fine. And so by doing that, what I've done is I've gone to the member directly. I've uncovered what they actually need help with, which they probably wouldn't have articulated off their own back. I've directed them to share that in the community. And then I've essentially kind of architected that piece of content going out in a manual way. And so, yes, it's manual. Yes, it's unscalable. And no, you probably don't want to do that forever. But I think until your community kind of sees those habits forming and people doing that stuff more organically and you hit more of a critical mass, I think that is a really, really easy tactic that virtually anyone can leverage. And it's a great way to start to guide your members to engage and form those early habits. And similar thing with connection. Don't just expect that members are going to join your community and start making best friends. It doesn't happen. You need to put the work in. And it's our job as community managers and community leaders to facilitate these things. We should be great facilitators. And so, you know, what I do is someone joins and I will, you know, pick 1 to 2 amazingly relevant people and I'll make intros and be like, hey, Sally, you should meet John. And, you know, that goes a long way. Or I look for commonalities. Like we've got a member who just joined from New York, potentially interested in meeting other New Yorkers. So I've got a little New York subgroup that I've got going in a DM group. But I'm the one driving it rather than just expecting the members to make all of that effort, because that's not human behavior. When you join a new community, you're not just going to lean in 110%. You're going to kind of rely on the community team to step up and help you in some of these areas. And then, of course, you want some ongoing campaigns and rituals. So this could be regular events that people find valuable and consistently show up for. It could be that you have a weekly summary email of what goes on in the community that kind of brings people back. But it's kind of this regular cadence of things that are going to continually tie people back into the community and help them engage. Growth at this point, it's like you've launched, but you need to think about ongoing growth. You need to make sure you've got a sufficiently strong top of funnel. So hopefully you haven't just exhausted your audience at the point of launch. You need to think, where are the new people going to come from? Again, this is a huge, huge topic, but it's kind of thinking, you know, am I going to be pushing this through email? Am I going to be doing this through content marketing on social? Is it going to be ads? Is it going to be partnerships? Is it going to be getting in front of wider audiences? Whatever it might be. And, you know, I've pivoted on this over the years based on my constraints. So at one point, I was way too busy with everything going on in my life to even think about posting content. So I didn't really have my own audience. So I would go and give talks on other channels that had a big audience, and they would drive a lot of members. Like I gave a talk on the Future channel on the YouTube, on YouTube. And, you know, my talks there have had like over 100,000 views and driven a lot of paying members to my community. And so that was a high leverage way for me to use my time. You can also start to encourage referrals. This is my favorite way to grow. You know, oftentimes members are happy to refer friends and share your community with others, especially if they get incentivized. And this can be a really powerful flywheel. I shared before this content flywheel as well, if you remember. So, you know, leverage what's happening in the community and turn it into valuable content, which feeds your top of funnel. There was one of our members, Ginger, that does this really well. And she said the thing that really, really exploded her membership and really helped her grow was FOMO content. So she was regularly sharing content on her public channels that basically made it seem like the cool kids were hanging out in her community, having a great time. And people were like, oh man, I feel like I'm missing out. And they would join the community. And then finally, retention. So again, retention is a big topic. but it's so important to get it right, because if you've got a bad churn rate, then you are never going to grow. You're going to have a leaky bucket. So a lot of the work I've been doing with my bigger clients is around fixing their retention. I think the first thing to do is feedback loops and, diagnose. So you need to figure out, why are people leaving? Why are they joining? What do they expect? And why are they leaving? And I think, really digging deep into that feedback is going to uncover a lot. But then what I talk about is, what most people do is they try and retain members here. So right before they renew, or like when they've already gone quiet. And at this point, it's basically too late. You've already lost them. What a lot of community professionals talk about is, the onboarding and the activation phase. So right after sign up. And it's true, that is one of the most important places that you can try and future retain members. But I actually think what no one talks about enough is what happens before sign up, because that is a huge retention driver. And that is things like making sure that you're attracting the right people in the first place, making sure that you have the right pricing cadence. Maybe you should be doing annual instead of monthly, and that's going to improve your churn. It's making sure that expectations are clear. One of the biggest reasons that people churn is they go in and they're kind of confused about what the community offers. And so I think if you can make it crystal clear and close that information gap, you're going to have less people leaving, because they know exactly what they're signing up for. And then it's just ensuring that when they sign up, you're matching or exceeding their expectations. And so a lot of these things you can actually fix before anyone signs up. And I'll give you a real example. We did an audit recently on one of my clients' memberships, and we figured out that certain types of members at a level of seniority in their career, they would only churn at 20%. So they had 80% retention year on year, which is like world class. There were other members where they were churning at 70%. So they only retained roughly like 30%. And these were people who were more junior in their career. And so the patterns were very clear. We started attracting more senior people, not letting in more junior people, and the retention rate started to move in an increasingly positive direction. And now it's unbelievably healthy. Nothing actually changed in the community, in the offering, in the price. Like, none of that stuff changed. The whole experience inside the community was the same. But by qualifying and getting better people pre-sign up, everything changed in terms of the success of that community business. That is the framework. Feel free to scan this. I know many of you are on LinkedIn. Say hi as well. I would absolutely love to chat there. If you prefer to learn on YouTube, I have a whole video digging into the stuff even deeper coming out in the next week or so. I'd love to see you there. And I hope this framework was helpful. I will drop a little chat if you want to get your hands on the full PDF. But there you go, guys. Thank you so much for being here today.
That was amazing. I like
that was a lot to pack in.
I know, but I like you did like very I would say lean presentation, keeping like these small boxes at the center to keep the brain focused.
Yeah,
Venia was on fire on the chat as well. So thank you for your interactions. Serena also. We got a few questions for you, Tom.
Yeah, awesome, please.
No? So
thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Yes. So after these two one-to-one free sessions that you are giving away today, no, I'm joking.
But I didn't remember that. No, I'm here to help. Please, let's do some questions.
Yes. But I just wanted to first just say thank you for your hard work today. It was beautiful. We learned lots. I like this, that you reinforce the concept of flywheel as a way to grow the community, and then how you also explain this detail that when you get high tickets and they get certain degree of success, those are a source for more clients in the end. So yes, we have been always using Senja almost 2 or 3 years led by community as well.
Yeah,
so it's a great tool. It's a great guy. So yeah. Let's go for the questions. Right. Let me see.
I'll try and be quick as well. We have 7 minutes, right?
Yeah, but I think that they are not the hard ones today. I think that you kind of cover lots. So
cool.
Esther Grider, she's director for an association actually on the member experience. So she has a ton of experience in community. She says, any tips for if you have the high ticket loyal membership and you're trying to build out the layer below?
Interesting. So you're trying to downsell. Yeah. I mean, I think oftentimes they're actually different people. And so I wouldn't think so much in terms of downselling to your high ticket people as I would think about opening up a market that you weren't catering to before. So I guarantee if there's a lower ticket offer, it's the same way I talk in reverse, right? It's like if you have a mid-ticket offer, there's going to be a bunch of high ticket people who just sat there who you're not catering to. If you don't have a lower ticket offer, there's going to be a bigger part of your mass market that just don't have the spending power to buy what you've put out to date. And so I'd have a whole launch campaign and be like, we've listened to you, and like, here's something for like all you guys that, you know, can't join the high ticket, and launch to a new market instead of trying to actively downsell.
That's an interesting point. Thank you. That's great. Esther, I thought I feel that was kind of the answer. From Serena's note, she's part of the Led by Community Advisory Board, actually.
Cool.
And she helped us with the Conference Plus during the London Community Week as well. So
which was amazing.
Yeah, we are still buzzing. Today I got the recap video, so I just want to play it.
I want to see it.
Yes, Serena asked, can you share more about your content mix, new, reactive, repurposed content? That's one question.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to be focused on your channels. So I'm not trying to be on every channel. I'm actually just doing YouTube and LinkedIn. My YouTube tends to be more stuff like what I taught today. So quite, deep dive. And I really love teaching in this kind of format. LinkedIn, I'm playing with, but I think I've got this in front of me. So full disclosure, I'm stealing this from one of my favorite LinkedIn teachers, but I like this approach. So there is 7 types of content, and this is what I'm starting to toy with right now. So lesson, so like 3 lessons I've learned building this community. Story, so it's like last week I did this in my community. Tips, so like here's 5 tips to build community. Obviously I'm making these relevant for my content, but
sure,
of yours. So like lesson, story, tips, wins, like I just achieved this win, like we hit this milestone or had a big launch or whatever. Mistakes, I made this mistake, building my community or whatever. Case studies, here's what happened with a member or a client or whatever it might be, and we break down their success. Or a hot take, this could be something that's contentious or like people aren't talking about this, or like a different angle. So lesson, story, tips, wins, mistakes, case studies, hot takes. That's going to be my content strategy on LinkedIn that I'm kind of cycling through. Nice.
I think that's great. Yes, I have been posting a few hot takes the last couple of weeks as well. Yeah. So it seems exciting. Okay, the next one also from Serena says, what criteria do you use for curating content from your paid community to repurpose as content to attract new member customers? Yeah. Okay. So I think it kind of depends, but I think out of the list I just gave, case studies are hugely, hugely powerful. And you can, like, some people do content where it's just like, here's a review, right? That is going to convert quite well, but you're going to get inherently quite low reach. So I'm always a fan of like, can you actually make it genuinely valuable content instead of just a sales push, but help it kind of sell for you? And so I love case studies. Like, I think if you can break down, like, here's some real results that our community achieved for a member and how, then people are going to learn from the content itself, but it's going to like absolutely sell your community because it's proof that it works. What is the way you kind of get people agreeing that you are able to share their story? Sorry, this is the fire alarm test in my building. Yeah, no worries. I'm safe. Yeah, you're not going to start getting like warm feet, are you? Yes. So I just wanted to because sometimes this is a sensible point. Like even SaaS companies have the same challenge. Like, like how do you pitch this idea to someone? No, we can see results. Are you comfortable for me sharing your story as a case study, or how do you do that? I think just ask and leverage the relationship. So oftentimes they say yes. Sometimes they say yes, but like leave out the money bit. And so you have to do from a different angle. Or sometimes they say yes, but it's like, can you anonymize me? But it all works. Like, ideally you want the numbers and the name and like everything. Yeah. There's plenty of great case studies that just talk about like, I did this for a client and it doesn't list the specific client. Yeah. It's still fine. Okay. That's a good point. Yeah, I love it. Okay, Tom, that's all from me and all the
Cool.
questions. In general, I would say it was amazing, and just keep the bus going today. It's a long day yet. We still have, I would say, 5 hours to go. I am grabbing the day. I didn't know. I was totally lost. I said, okay, I will be ending the UK time zone.
Yeah.
And then my brain got lost, and I was thinking. Then we go to US, and in the end, it was totally inverse. US started yesterday, then APAC, and now we are grabbing out actually. So yeah,
I love it.
really
It's an incredible event. Hey, Yuri, as well. What's up? Have fun, everyone. I hope you love it. Thank you so much for organizing. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate everyone being here live and being active in the chat. You're awesome.
Awesome. Take care, Tom.
Take care, man.
Bye bye.